Welcome to today's program. This is Dibia Nwangu Chendo. I hope you are faring well. Well, today is a brand new day, and we are going to talk about the concept of abstinence in a human life. Well, what is abstinence? This is the practice of restraining oneself from indulging in something like alcohol or sex. Abstinence is the practice of abstaining from something or the practice of not doing something that is wanted or enjoyable. This could be long abstinence from food, habitual abstaining from intoxicating beverages, abstention from sexual intercourse. So therefore, abstinence means not having any kind of sex with a partner. Sex includes vaginal intercourse or oral sex, anal sex, whatever kind of sex. You see, oral sex is any kind of contact between the mouth and the genital. The definition of abstinence is choosing not to engage in a certain behavior and of not giving in to a desire or appetite. This is where a lot of people find it difficult. You see, once you understand the concept of abstinence, I don't think you will have any problem not understanding me or carrying out certain things or refraining from carrying out certain activities for quite some time. To abstain means not to indulge in something. It can be any activity. It can be sports. You can decide to abstain from sports, any sporting event, all right? You can decide to abstain from hanging around bad friends. Deny yourself of some pleasures, So, let's just say an example of abstinence is like someone who is recovering from alcohol that no longer drinks. You see, an alcoholic that no longer drinks. This is an example of abstinence. The practice of refraining from indulging a desire or appetite. Abstinence may be voluntary when an individual chooses not to engage in sexual activity due to moral, religious, philosophical, or other reasons. It can be an involuntary result of social circumstances when one cannot find any willing sexual partner or legally mandated, for instance, in countries where sexual activity outside marriage is illegal. It can be in prison, it can be anywhere. So abstinence is a self-enforced restraint from indulging in bodily activities that are widely experienced as giving pleasure. Most times the term refers to sexual abstinence. Of course, that is the one people can really relate to. In terms of spirituality, yes, there are some certain spiritual works that a spiritualist or a dibia might want to engage in. It will entail abstinence. It will entail that dibia from not participating in any sexual activity, for the spiritual work to go well. Like I will always say, there are some certain work you want to do or you need to do for a client that involves you, the dibia, abstaining from some certain things. Well, regardless, as a dibia, there are certain things you abstain from for you to still retain or have a close relationship with your spiritual guides. Let me put it that way. So if you abstain from all these things, it sharpens you spiritually. Your spiritual intuition is heightened. The way you connect with your spiritual guide is assured, is guaranteed, is 100%. And also for you to grow, have spiritual growth, you need to abstain from certain things. Abstinence can be temporary. It can also be permanent. On the part of a dibia, yes, let's say that abstinence can also be permanent and can also be temporal. The permanent ones have to do with their agu. There are certain things that a dibia's agu forbids. Let me use that word. There are certain things they shouldn't do for them to be in line or in alignment with their agu, with their spiritual guide. It's just like a code of conduct for them. Yes, that's the word for it. A code of conduct. Because without that kind of abstinence, there is nowhere they can function maximally spiritually. Take for example, their nso agu. It is a must. It is a kind of permanent abstinence where a dibia is instructed, mandated by agu, never to eat anything made of cassava, be it gari, abacha, in whatever form or way that cassava is used. A dibia's agu forbids that. So this is a kind of permanent abstinence for that dibia to function properly spiritually. So, ha nwezie nya bụ nsọ agwụ ọ ga-eme ka ha na-eme ọfụma na mmụọ, ka fa ghara imejọ mmụọ ha, ọra mmụọ ha, ka ha ghara imejọ agwụ in particular. To retain that connectivity. Like I always say, spirituality is all about abstinence. There are certain things you don't indulge in. It's just like people who talk about the 16 commandments of ordinary. It amuses me when they use that term. But all they are simply saying, they are talking about the nso and ewu that guides you who is into ordinary spirituality, so that you don't do things like it is done in religion. All right? You see, one of those commandments says that you should not sleep with a married woman or a married man when you are talking about adultery. Because in ala Igbo, nwoke na-akwụ ụgwọ isi nwanyị, that is dowry or bride price. So you that you are a womanizer, you have no business sleeping with a married woman. Even if you are married, you married man, you have no business sleeping with a married woman. It's a desecration. you are going beyond your boundary. Even the spirit recognizes that a woman is married to a man and a dowry was paid on her behalf. It is a spiritual activity. That is the spirituality, the spiritual aspect of, what will I say, culture or menani. During the time that this traditional marriage is being carried out, it is a spiritual activity, it is a spiritual event that most of you don't understand. You can't relate with it because you see it from the point of view, and they want us to bring yam, bring palm wine, bring money, come and eat, chop and clean mouth. No, it is not like that. It is not like that. That is spirituality for you. The very ceremony is spiritual. It has spiritual connotation. From the part that the bride's father, hands her over to the groom, from the part that they exchange the palm wine, which most people ignorantly, their men, the groom, they pour it away, they pour it out on the ground without drinking it. Drinking it signifies I do. That is the most simple way to put it across to you. But once you pour it out, what does it signify? Once you pour that palm wine away, you are saying, I do not. You do not accept the woman to be your wife before the spirits. Let's put it that way. You see, that is why you would need to be careful. And so certain things you commonize, you take it as if it doesn't matter. All right? That is a spiritual aspect of life, whereby this man pays the bride price of a woman, and you, rampaging, lustful man or youth or single, you go ahead to go and sleep, to go and fornicate or commit adultery with a married woman. Naturally, you are under a curse. You don't need a soothsayer to tell you this. You need a Igbo afa. That you are under a curse automatically. The gods of the land forbids this. All right? The ordinary aspect of marriage forbids it. Talk more of in the spiritual realm. If you see the enormity of this offense, I don't think that any person can just go ahead and commit that blunder. So we need to be careful. You need to abstain from breaking those kind of natural laws, natural rules in ordinary. It comes with consequences. So what do you do in this regard? You need to abstain from sex. You stay away from sleeping with a married woman. You stay away. Even though our culture does not regard a married man sleeping with a single girl as an abomination. Because at the end of the affair, he might decide to marry her and make her the second wife. You see how our culture is. You see that it is dynamic. It's not as if it favors only the men. It favors both parties, both men and women. But you see that boundary of where a man paid dowry on a woman's head, you, single man, dare not cross it. You don't cross that boundary. You don't provoke, the gods of the land. So, ipara itule, ichekienya, odroma. You can't go and sleep with a man's wife, knowing fully well he paid her bride price. That paying of bride price is the spiritual aspect of that ebampo, which most of you don't know. That is why most of you use red wine or whatever in place of palm wine. And some men ignorantly pour away the palm wine, thinking they will be poisoned, or they just do it because they have watched some Nollywood movies and feel that that is Igbo culture. Instead of you to drink it and put money inside the glass cup. Some use glass because of civilization. Some use the local cup. You put money there, it means you have accepted the woman. You do want to marry her. But once you pour away the wine, palm wine, naturally and spiritually, it signifies you do not want to marry her. That is why most of you face calamities in your marriage. That is why when a young man sleeps with a married woman, he starts having problem, starts having setback in his life because of the spiritual punishment that comes automatically against the offender. I hope you are listening. So therefore, you are urged to abstain from this sexual immorality. Because abstinence are of different types. I've talked about the sexual abstinence, used it as an example. You can also abstain from alcohol. If you are the type that take alcohol and it intoxicates you to misbehave, some can even kill someone. Yes, when they are on when they are under alcoholic stupor, you might become aggressive if you know your brain cannot carry alcohol. It can be manipulated when you are under alcoholic influence. That means you have to abstain. You refrain from drinking alcohol entirely. So there's a difference between temporal abstinence and a permanent abstinence. In the case of a dibia, because of the agu, you can call it the permanent abstinence. Because for life, that dibia is not going to eat cassava. That dibia is mandated under agu not to indulge in telling lies. And also to refrain from eating food that is not from the earth. Like, junk food. That is a kind of permanent abstinence. As long as that dibia lives, what are you doing eating junk food? Tin tomatoes, it's man-made. Yes, it's man-made. It's not natural. So because the call stems from a place of natural worship, natural tradition with the universe, in connection with the universe, you talk about the natural elements for the dibia who is truly called, who is under a divine mandate. They abstain from a lot of things. That is why it is not easy for them. For those who have given up, themselves totally in submission to their divine call, it is easy for them. Some naturally, they come to earth with it. And if you're natural nsọ, you see the person that arrived from birth, it doesn't have anything to do with alcohol. The odor of it itself can, cause the person to vomit or shut down. So for them, the abstinence can be temporal, or let me say it's more of permanent, on the side of a great spiritualist. It is not everything that normal people do, that they do because they are half human and half spirit. So it will be easier for them to connect with their spiritual side when situation arises, when occasion demands for it. You feel your metamorphose to okalamado or kalammo. So that abstinence helps them to maintain their power, to maintain their level of authority in the spiritual realm, to decree and it comes to pass, to use herbs to heal people. Once they say words, it automatically activates those herbs before their deity, or if they are using ofo. Maka na ọgwụ ọbụla agwọrọ agwọ ọnụ ka eji wee kwuo okwu. You activate it by the power of the mouth for someone who is a dibia, and for some people who have some certain abilities. Find out, dig deep inside, go closer to them. You will find out that there are things they abstain from, which can be permanent abstinence for them. Is it drug? Is it food? Most dibias, they do not take drugs. All right? Because they work with nature, using nature, earth, water, wind, and let's say sun or fire. Whatever they do, whatever they eat or ingest in them must be natural. So in this case, using, any leaf or herbs for cure is acceptable. But using synthetic drugs, no. Most of them, their body will not even take it in. That is, if it comes to synthetic drugs. What most of their bodies take is natural herbs. Herbs can be roots, can be the bark of a tree. So it depends. For them, it's a kind of permanent abstinence. Having a small circle for them is a permanent abstinence, because they are under natural oath of secrecy, keeping people's secret. They don't talk anyhow. That is why naturally it seems that most of them are, how do I say, extrovert or introvert. They don't talk anyhow. They don't have a big circle of friends. They live in seclusion. It's natural for them, so that when the occasion arise, like I told you before, they can switch to their other side. So you don't compare and contrast yourself with someone who has a divine call, a divine mandate to liberate mankind, to heal, to deliver people, to foretell or foresee the future, to do divination, what we call Ibafa. Because they need to go within themselves. For those ones who have that ability, there are some who use divination tools, of course. But even though while they are using divination tools, they need to connect themselves spiritually to be able to give accurate, divination, for them to see further. So for them, the abstinence can mean a permanent one from alcohol, drug, food, or even sex. There are some of them, it's like sex is a big burden. Let me not say that they are abnormal, but that's the way they are made. Some, it is not like that. They can indulge and even enjoy it, but there has to be a limit, so it will not interfere with their other side. They can now, switch over and do the spiritual work. Then there are some that are carried away. They don't know the difference, between temporary abstinence and permanent abstinence. That is, this kind of people, they have problem with their spouses, whereby the other party will be telling, nyamia, nyamia, the other person will say, no, no. I still have spiritual work that I'm doing. You see, it now causes friction in the marriage. Their sexual relationship begin to suffer. So if they can draw the boundary between permanent abstinence and temporary abstinence, they will still, find a way to meet themselves and agree to a certain window period. This is the time for it. This is the time we abstain from it. Why they take that decision? There is a balance now. It's not as if the person is frigid or impotent. You understand? So I'm trying to explain the difference between permanent abstinence and temporal abstinence. For us as humans, yes, there are times we have to abstain in order to get what we want, in order to work towards something and achieve it, in order to, heal from some certain things. Maybe it can be health-wise, psychologically, mentally, even financially. If you abstain from spending recklessly, of course, you learn how to save. This is what I'm trying to say. So you can differentiate from the different kinds of abstinence according to your issues or challenges. So you can solve it and not go back again to commit the same blunder over and over and over and over again. So if you are the kind of person that money does not last in your hands, there needs to be a solution for that. You minimize the way you spend, you minimize the way you eat, so that you can actually try and save up. You can also get a piggy bank and keep it, whereby where you get your earnings, you can divide it into 10 and remove the one part of it and put it in that your piggy bank. If you do this for a whole year, you would have known how much you have saved. Then you channel the others to bills, paying of bills, different kind of bills, Now you have solved the problem of being a squandermania. You have seen it now, that your temporal abstinence has solved the issue of financial recklessness. And if it continues for a long period of time, it now falls under permanent abstinence. Abstaining from reckless spending. That you now save a lot to be able to buy a land in future. To be able to save again after buying that land, you build your house. You see? From there, after building the house, you move in. You have to furnish the house now. After furnishing and moving into the house, you also save towards buying a car. You have solved the problem of financial recklessness. And you have maintained a certain standard in your life. So you can handle any amount of money confidently without spending it recklessly because of the solution you discovered. That from that temporal abstinence is stretched into permanent abstinence of spending money recklessly. You have now achieved result and become a better person. So it's good to know that there are things that can be injurious to your life. You find a solution to it. Either a permanent solution or a temporal solution. Like I said earlier, abstinence is a self-enforced restraint from indulging and bodily activities that are widely experienced as giving pleasure. Most times, the term refers to sexual abstinence.